It's not often that three super mini hot hatches come out at exactly the same time, but hey, that's what's happened here, and so Auto Express has brought them together to find out which is best. Hey, that's what we do. First up, we have the new Ford Fiesta St. It costs from 17 grand and uses a 1.6 litre turbo with up to 197 brake horsepower and 290 Newton meters of torque on overboost. Ford says it's good for 139 miles an hour, 0 to 62 miles an hour in 6.9 seconds and will return 48 miles per gallon. Then there's a Peugeot 208 GTI. It also has a 1.6 litre turbo engine which produces 197 brake horsepower, however torque is 275 Newton meters. Peugeot says the 0 to 62 sprint time takes 6.8 seconds, top speed is 143 miles an hour and economy is 48 miles per gallon. However, it costs almost £19,000. Our final contender is the Renault Sport Clio. It also uses a 1.6 litre turbo engine and has 197 brake horsepower. However, its torque figure of 240 Newton meters is the lowest here. Top speed is good though, 143 miles an hour, and 0 to 60 is the fastest at 6.7 seconds, while MPG is the lowest at 45 miles per gallon. And like the other cars here though, it's only available with a paddle shift automatic gearbox, and it's the most expensive too at £20,000. So, how do the three cars compare? Join me behind the scenes on an Auto Express group test to find out. One of the key areas considered on cars such as these is performance. And what better way to see which is the fastest off the mark in the real world than with a drag race? I'll be driving the Renault, which comes with launch control as standard.
In the drag race, it was the Renault that had the clear advantage thanks to its launch control. It just streaked off ahead of the other two. Between the Ford and the Peugeot, there wasn't much in it off the line, but then the Peugeot's extra power told at the end, and it just managed to gain a little bit of an advantage, really. So Ford last, Renault first.
As part of their car evaluation process, Auto Express's testers use GPS technology to check each car's claimed 0 to 60 sprint time and their braking performance. So, how did the cars perform in their hands? The Renault did 0 to 60 in 6.7 seconds and stopped from 70 miles an hour in 45 metres. The Peugeot did 0 to 60 in 7.2 seconds and stopped from 70 miles an hour in 47 metres. Whereas the Fiesta did 0 to 60 in 7.5 seconds and stopped from 70 in 52 metres. Some people who buy hot hatches will want to take them on a track day, and that's why Auto Express has brought these cars to a circuit to see which one can put in the fastest lap. Probably won't be that one with all that understeer. That job usually falls to the team's resident racing driver, Owen Mildenhall.
Well, Anglesey is a really good test of a front-wheel drive hot hatch because there's lots of long, tight, tightening corners that really put a loading on the front tyres. So it really shows up how good a hot hatch is on a twisty bit of tarmac. And the Fiesta was definitely the star of the show. It did a lap time of 68.7 seconds, which is equals a lap time we did around here in the old Clio Cup car, which is quite a track-biased car. And obviously the Fiesta's much better on the road, but it can still match that car's lap time. On the track, it's really good. It's got lots of front-end grip. It's very agile, it's very adjustable. You can turn it on the brakes, you can get the rear end moving around, get it pivoting around the driver in the middle. Still got lots of front-end grip, strong brakes, really nice gearbox. And most importantly of all, it's really good fun. You just want to drive round and round and round and round. Really good fun. The Clio is the one that disappointed the most. It was a second slower than the Fiesta, so a second slower than the old Clio. And it just feels quite heavy, isn't really front end bite, so it understeers too much. It feels a bit lazy, there's not much feel in the steering. And the gearbox doesn't really work on the track. It's a bit too slow, doesn't really engage you that much. Peugeot did a 69.0, so it's quite a bit quicker than the Renault. The Peugeot is a great road car. On the track it feels a little soft, not quite as edgy as the Fiesta, not as tied in as the Fiesta, but still better than the Clio, just a little bit more understeer than the Fiesta. Its biggest problem on track was it ran out of brakes. Brake pedal got a little bit spongy. That was its biggest problem.
So far we know the Clio is the best in a drag race, the Fiesta is the fastest round the track, and the Peugeot comes a close second on 2 occasions, but really how these cars perform out on the road is what really matters. Auto Express put in many hours testing cars to come up with their verdict, driving hundreds of miles over a range of different roads from motorways to town, though of course with hot hatches, extra time is spent on fun B roads.
I was surprised after driving these 3 on the road. I was expecting this to be a very close contest, but my favourite was the Ford. It's a hot hatch through and through. It's got the raw T exhaust note, it's got really tight handling, it's great meaty steering, loads of torque, so it really flies along. The Peugeot was a surprise too, because it feels like they've gone for a real grown-up approach. It's like a VW Golf GTI. It's got a really nice ride, it's quick, refined, comfortable. It's not as sort of razor sharp as a 205 GTI, but it's still fun, fast, and it's great to own. Disappointment, got to be the Renault. It just felt a bit big and heavy. Steering doesn't inspire confidence. The paddles for the twin clutch gearbox were just really frustrating, because you know, you'd hit them for a down change and it just wouldn't always respond. And the ride's just a bit firm as well.
Sometimes there is a clear winner in a test like this, but often it's only decided later back at the office once all the numbers have been crunched and opinions shared.
So the Renault came last in our test because it's the most expensive to buy and it's not as good to drive on the road or the track as either of its rivals. So that's why it gets 3 stars. The Peugeot took a worthy runner-up spot. It's a very good car and much better than we thought it would be. It's good to drive, but it's very easy to live with every day. It gets 4 stars. The best car though is the Fiesta. It's the cheapest to buy and the best to drive. In fact, it's the sort of car you just want to go for a drive in just for the sake of it, and it gets 5 stars.
Well, there you go then. The Ford Fiesta ST came out top in our Super Mini Hot Hatch group test, and if you want to see how the review ended up in the magazine, it's in our 8th of May edition of Auto Express, and as well as being able to get that in print, you can now get it in our rather lovely new iPad app, which you can download now from the Apple App Store.